Welcome to the Killer Countdown. I am your host, Casey Kelderman, and today, Blake Ginnathan, my co-host, is not here today with me as he usually is. And instead, I am joined with someone very special. My fiance, Kayla Christensen.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Peachy.
Peachy, yes. So we had a lot of mix-ups coming into this episode. We originally planned to do a countdown of the James Wan films with another guest to the show. Scheduling things came up. That didn't happen. And then me and Blake were going to plan on something. Blake couldn't make it because he had food poisoning or something. I don't know.
Ew.
So, luckily, I knew a horror fan that lived in my house with me. And that is Kayla, and this is a topic we've wanted to do for a while. That is kids' horror movies. So horror movies that are intended for kids, but that are also spooky. Spooky. Yes, so we'll do that. The top 8 horror kids films. It's going to be fun. It's going to be dicey.
You'll get mad at me.
Maybe I'll get mad. I don't know. We did set up some guidelines. We'll talk about those when we get right before we start our game of the Killer Countdown. But we'll continue with what we always do, me and Blake always do, is talk about our recent watches of horror movies and recommendations. So I want to start, because we both, there's 2 of them that we watched together. One was Final Destination 5, which was a first-time watch for me. It's the one that has eluded me in that franchise for the longest time. I've seen the other 4 multiple times. This one was the first-time watch, and it's one of my favorites now. It's so much fun.
It's a good one.
We both agree on one thing, and only one thing only in our relationship, that Saw is not a great series.
I hate Saw.
Yep. I don't hate it. I think the first 2 are fine. They're nothing great.
I don't enjoy it. It's not a pleasure.
No, they're not a fun movie to watch.
No.
But I would say, and I think you think the same thing, the Final Destination movies are really fun to watch.
I agree.
They know what they are. So Final Destination 5, like the big premonition is of the bridge collapsing, which is just so much fun. It's so ridiculous. I love it. It's so much fun. And yeah, every kill in this. And then, of course, this movie came out in 2011. I've known about the ending forever, so I'm just going to spoil it. The way it connects to the first film is awesome. That's so genius. Like the whole point of the first 2 movies is that they were connected, and if you skip your place in death is still going to come find you and get you anyway. And then this movie ends with them, the 2 main characters, aboard the flight that blows up at the beginning of the first one, and shows it in graphic detail, and it's awesome.
In 3D.
A movie that we also watched in theaters, and is something that we are going to try to continue to do, is watch every horror movie in the theater, whether that be in the regular first couple weekends of release or the cheap seats. We'll probably get to all of them this year. Hopefully that's one of our goals. We're already 2 behind. But we've got one in. Gretel and Hansel.
Unfortunately.
The latest from Osgood Perkins, who's done The Blackcoat's Daughter. And this movie is not... it's not great. It's boring. It's really boring. I went into this with not really high expectations, but I heard some good things about it, and I was kind of excited to see it, I guess. Like an updated version of Hansel and Gretel, not with Jeremy Renner fighting witches with a crossbow and that movie. This movie is just, it's gorgeous. It is very well shot. It's beautiful to look at. There's scenes where Gretel and Hansel are walking through the woods, and like the only color really is like the orange leaves on the ground, and everything else is like dark and dreary and gray. I'm like, that's nice. I like it. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the witch's house, and my problem is we all know the Hansel and Gretel story, whether that be the tamer versions or the grim versions, whatever. It's about this witch that eats children, pretty much. And it goes exactly the way the original stories go and doesn't take any deviations from that, and it's the exact same story.
Besides, the house isn't edible.
That's true. There's a lot of good food and tasty food. The food looked really good in the movie.
Uh,
Yeah, it looked fake, which I think I would like. That's part of the Gretel and Hansel story is like the food looks so fake, but yet it looks so good. Like it's a fairy tale. Like fairy tale food always looks appealing. But yeah, this movie's really boring.
But then you find out what the food really is.
Yeah, I don't want to eat that food now. Yeah, it ends exactly how you think it would end. The performances are good, but it's nothing like... Ultimately, it's just a forgettable movie.
The kids didn't get eaten, though.
What?
That's how the original...
And Hansel and Gretel? Like
And
Hansel and
Gretel?
Gretel get eaten? Are you sure? Pretty sure they killed the witch in the fire.
Yeah. I'm thinking
Which
of
is
Grim
what they did.
Tales.
Yeah. They could just kill the witch in the fire, and that's how it ends, and that's how every other story of Gretel and Hansel ends. So it does not get a recommendation from me, or I think Kayla as well.
It wasn't a bad movie, but it was just boring.
Yeah. I have two recommendations of movies to watch. One is Bliss. This is on Shudder right now. It's basically about this girl she's an artist in L.A., and she's trying to finish her quote-unquote masterpiece, and people are asking for it, and her buyers are trying to get it from her. She can't do it, so she decides to help break like her mental block of finishing the painting by taking a ton of new drugs. One of them's called Bliss.
It's always helpful.
Yeah, this movie is nuts. It's crazy. Directed by Joe Bagos, shot in 16 millimeter, so it's really grainy. But it's also like really grainy, but it's full of reds and purples and neon colors. It's awesome.
Sounds like Suspiria.
It's a little like the colors very much look like Suspiria. And then once you figure out what type of story this is, I'm not going to spoil it. I can tell you after, but I won't spoil it for people listening. What the story is and like what horror genre it falls underneath, I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, this is one I missed when it first came out on VOD. I'm glad Shudder got it, and Shudder's the best. I love Shudder. Another one I did watch on Shudder as well is called The Mutilator, aka Fall Break, a 1984 slasher film about these group of teens that go to their dad's house, one of the teens, their dad's house, and just to clean it up before winter comes, and it's a beach house, and kids get picked off one by one. Obviously, it's a slasher movie. It's usually how it goes. The movie opens with a very similar opening as Pieces, which we've both seen and love, where you see the child killed one of the parents, and this time it was an accident. The other time was not. But this one was an accident, and that's the main character in the film, and you see what him and his dad's relationship is like after that. Of course, the dad is the killer, which is like the final line in the movie, but the entire time, like, yes, the dad's the killer, obviously. Like, he's gone mad, of course. This movie, like, uses every weapon in the book. It's awesome. The tagline for the movie is so awesome. It's buy sword, buy pick, buy axe, bye-bye. This movie is so much fun. Yeah, he uses hooks. He uses like the big fishing hooks, you know. Mm-hmm. Like he uses a pitchfork.
You mean a meat hook, like where you hang your meat on?
Yeah, but it's like the fishing ones. Mm. Yeah, this movie's awesome. Great special effects. There's a great decapitation scene. Has it all. Everything a slasher nerd like me loves to see. And there, even more, what makes a great slasher to me is a great original song that ties into the title of your film. And this movie has one called Fall Break, and they definitely use the song at least 3 different times in the film, and it's so cheesy and terrible, and I love it. Yeah, so The Mutilator, go watch it on Netflix. It's so much fun. I'll talk about that on a different episode coming up, possibly.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun. But let's jump into the Killer Countdown kids horror movies. So this is a topic you and I have wanted to do for a while, because I've asked you a couple times what's something you would want to do on the Killer Countdown. And this is one of the topics we have talked about multiple times, because we have already said, like, this is our thing. We love... I don't know, what's the right term for it? like kids horror, I guess, in general.
I think it's more like kids movies that are not supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess.
It's kind of like you watch it with your kids and then you get the adult terms and the kids just sitting there like, what?
Like when I was a kid, like the movies from my childhood that still stick out have like horrific scenes in them. Like Wizard of Oz is kind of scary. There's damn flying monkeys and a witch melting, and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was another childhood favorite. The kids are the secret ingredient, obviously. Pretty sure Willy Wonka was a serial killer. He was the OG Freddy Krueger, child murderer. Yeah, but that's something we've always loved, and we both like. Pretty much every night we're like, you want to watch Goosebumps? No. You want to watch Scary Stories to Tell? Or
Are you afraid of the
Are
dark?
you afraid of the dark? No. Do you want to watch Tales from the Crypt Keeper? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And that's usually the three options of what we have before we go to sleep.
The animated Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
Yes, go watch that if you haven't. It's on Tubi for free. And yeah, we watch all those. Like those are a jam. Those are our favorite things to watch. So this has been a topic we've wanted to do. We'll do the TV show ones.
Kids will watch those shows.
That'll be. We have already said that our kid will be the crypt keeper for their first Halloween costume. But let's get into the killer countdown. Top 8 kids horror movies. So basically, how this is going to work. Me and Kayla are going to make a top 8 list of the best kids horror films of all time. In this hat right here, we have the numbers 8, 7, 6, and 5. We'll pick those out, 2 each. We'll play those numbers with the cards that we have. Not randomly selected, that we have selected apart from each other. And then we'll go through those numbers. Then we'll redraw again with the numbers 4, 3, 2, and 1. Throughout the game, though, we also both have what we call on this show a stab, because horror movies, get it? So the stab can be used once by each player in the game. If they do not like a movie being on the list, period, they can stab it. Or if they think the movie should be higher, they can also stab it. If you stab the movie, the other player that you stab against will have to pick then a different film to play at that spot. So let's get into it. I will let you draw one. I'll draw one, and then so on. So the rules that we have... I put the wrong numbers in here. Scratch that. Reverse it. Scratch that.
Like, this is
We're starting from the bottom up, I guess. There we go.
Starting from
All
the
right.
bottom.
Make sure we had the 8 through 5 instead. The rules that we have set up for this are that these movies will have to be intended for children first. First and foremost was supposed to be a children's audience before anything else. So movies like... We've already discussed some of them. Ghostbusters, Gremlins, Beetlejuice are 3 of the ones that we discussed that will not be played on this because those were not intended to be children's movies. Mm-hmm. Those were intended for an older audience already, and so that's what we have decided. You can argue with us all you want, but the game will already be played by that point anyway. So your arguments are mute. All right.
Thou shalt not speak.
So I have the number 8. I will be the one that kicks it off.
Oh, it better be good.
Oh, yeah. All right. So let me pull up my IMDb so I can get some of my names correct. But with the number 8, and we should also mention, if you can't see our faces, you can probably tell we are on the younger end of being horror fans. We are both 90s kids, so some of these might be from the 90s. Quite a few, probably.
I think I have one from the 80s.
But like, you know what I mean? We grew up during when these movies were at the height of their popularity. But in the case of my number 8 selection, this movie has gotten more popular after each year. And that is Disney's Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus, of course, you have all seen this movie. If not, you know what it's about. It's about 3 witches from the Salem witch trials that get hung in the first 10 minutes of the movie in a Disney movie, and basically they put a spell on this town.
Put a spell.
And basically now present day 1992 or something like that when this movie came out, 93. This group of this brother and sister moved to the town of Salem. And they find the old Sanderson sisters' house, and they go and visit there. They find the book And I believe is it the brother that reads from the book, or is it the sister?
To bring
the witches back.
It's the brother.
I think the brother does. Yeah.
He's the virgin.
He is the virgin. Well, so is the little girl, but whatever. They say virgin a lot in this Disney movie from the 90s. And they bring back the witches, and the witches kind of wreak havoc upon this town on Halloween night. So this movie has kind of everything you want in a kid's horror movie. And horror movies for me if you're doing scores out of 10, it automatically gets a bump up a point if you're set on Halloween, which this movie is, and It's a great Halloween movie. The reason I put it on here for scariness, as far as horror, because some people would say it's not horror, I would say there is some scary parts. One, it's involving witches, and it is also involves a zombie, Billy Butcherson.
Also involves sucking the life out of children
and taking a life of a virgin child and making spells out of them and turning one of the kids into a cat. And there's a lot of horror stuff in this movie. Whoever says this isn't a horror movie is crazy. But the part that always scared me as a kid was Billy Butcherson.
I loved Billy.
He is a great character. He's now, looking at it, he's a very sympathetic character. Mm-hmm. But just like his makeup is great. Mm-hmm. And the fact that his mouth is sewn shut, that's what creeped me out.
And he cuts it open.
Yeah, I think that was just that, and then all the gunk falling out.
The leaves.
The leaves and the dust. And Doug Jones plays him, who's should play every monster now. And he's great in this. It's directed by Kenny Ortega, who later on did the High School Musical movies.
Wow, that's kind of interesting.
Uh-huh. And it's also written by Mick Garris, who has a great podcast called Postmortem. And he's done numerous films and Stephen King adaptations, mostly Sleepwalkers being one of them, which is awesome. The TV version of The Shining. He's done a ton of films. And yeah, he wrote this. He's a big fan of what this movie ended up being, and he knew exactly what it was. And I'm glad that we still have something like this. And this is a movie that I grew up loving watching every Halloween on Disney Channel.
I also love this movie.
That's it? So you're leaving it?
Yep. But you've left out the cat, too. I can never remember his name.
Binksy.
Yeah, Binks.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The cat plays a big part in... And they also show him getting run over and the life leaving. Yeah. And then him re-inflating, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this movie... There's one other random thing. The house that the kids live in, I love that house. I want that house. Yeah.
Especially because it has that,
the window up top. Yeah, the little...
The sitting stoop.
Yes, that's awesome. It's a great setting for a horror movie, yeah. We will own the house from Hocus Pocus one day.
One day we will.
All right, so you're fine at number 8?
Yeah, I'm fine with Hocus Pocus.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. You have the number 7.
I do have the number 7.
So I will take the number 7, and you can build up your dramatic saying to what the number 7 will be.
I honestly don't think you've seen this movie.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and you've seen almost all movies, but I'm pretty sure you haven't seen this one. My number 7 is going to be the Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events.
It's the Jim Carrey one.
Yes, because that one was kind of creepy.
I have not seen this movie forever.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie.
You have?
I have seen it.
I've read the books as a kid.
When did this came out? 2005 or something like that? I'll look it up. Anyway.
Yeah, you should pull up the item, whatever.
What's the plot? 2004.
So the plot is these kids' parents, I'm pretty sure they die, and they have to go live with their long-lost uncle, which I don't want to say too much, but, and while they're with their uncle, I think, is trying to take their fortune, what's left behind for them, and, a lot of weird things happen, and a lot of weird characters get introduced as well. I'm trying to pull it up, too.
Yeah, the first line it says on IMDb, their parents get killed in a fire.
Yep.
I have seen this movie. It's been since 2004, 2005, so I was 10, 11 years old, so I had remembered nothing.
Mm-hmm. Plus, this movie is really, it's really dark, as in, everything's, black and white, and, no color, really. Mm-hmm. It's kind of drained of all color. And then you go into his house, the uncle's house, and then there is some color in there. The one part I remember is, like, there's an interaction with a snake. And that part scared me because I'm pretty sure the snake, like, lunged at the kids. And then the, like, the youngest of them, she's, like, 3 or 4, like, grabs the snake. That part freaked me out a little bit. But this whole thing is just kind of creepy.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I have not watched this in forever. But I do remember it being very creepy. Jim Carrey is obviously kind of kooky Jim Carrey, but also creepy Jim Carrey. He kind of, like, the way that I remember him from this now, and the bits I remember this movie, he kind of now reminds me of Max Schreck's Nosferatu. Just in the way he looks, he's very lanky. The kind of, like, even the house he lives in, the kind of way he walks, like, kind of, and dresses.
he does,
even.
yeah.
Like, if they're gonna go ahead with this Nosferatu remake, let's throw Jim Carrey in there. Throw him under some makeup, but he can do the physicality of it. Why not? Mm-hmm. All right, I'm cool with that movie staying in.
Oh, yay!
Because I do remember it being creepy.
Yeah, that movie is definitely creepy, and it's definitely gauged towards kids. It's rated PG.
Mm-hmm. And it's based off a kid's book.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've done a new series now with
Netflix.
Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris is in it.
I haven't seen it.
No, I haven't either. All right, number 6. You have that.
I do have this one too, and you probably, I don't think you'll like this one, but whatever.
I do have a stab.
I know you do, and I hope you don't use it on this one, because this one, like, is kind of just this whole movie is kind of creepy, but then the artwork in this movie is pretty amazing. Like, I have seen this movie several different times.
Okay.
And I love this movie. Because it also introduces one of my favorite characters. In a very, like, subtle way. It's just like,
okay.
oh, here.
What do we got?
I got James and the Giant Peach.
Tim Burton makes his first appearance on this list. Maybe not his last. We will see.
Probably not. No.
All right, James and the Giant Peach. I've never seen this. It's one of the few Tim Burton movies I've not watched. Yeah. I told you there are some Tim Burton movies, and you and I are going to do a Tim Burton episode.
I am okay with that.
Yeah.
And we're going to binge watch Tim Burton.
Of them. That's fine. That's fine with me. So what is James and the Giant Peach about?
Okay, so James and the Giant Peach is about a kid who gets, like, these magical wormy thingies and turns his entire world upside down. It starts with these wormy things, like, grow literally a huge peach the size of, like, a house, and his crazy aunts are the ones that, like, start selling tickets for people to come see this peach, but his crazy aunts are also the ones that, like, this is gonna trigger some people, but they literally, like, abuse the kid.
Did I say Tim Burton directed? He didn't direct this. I'm sorry.
No.
He produced. This is one of the ones where it's Tim Burton's name is all over it.
But he produced.
He produced it.
Yep.
Just like a Nightmare Before Christmas.
But yeah, anyways, yeah, so the kid was abused, and the magic wormy things, and they infect a peach, and the peach grows, and it kind of turns his world upside down, and turns his world into a, like, crazy stop motion world with, like, bugs and stuff like that. I think it's creepy because there's a couple parts. Well, first off, the bugs are huge. Yeah, the bugs are huge. Like, they're life size. And they end up living in this peach. But, yeah, the bugs are creepy. And then there's, like, a pirate scene, which is where I was talking about they subtly introduce one of my favorite characters. There's a pirate that just happens to look a little bit like Jack Skellington. Just a little bit like him. I know it looks a lot like him, but it's pretty fun. There's a lot of good music in it. And just the story itself is pretty good. And the colors are really, really pretty.
I'm looking up the Jack Skellington scene quick.
I figured you would.
Yeah, that's just him. There's nothing ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's just him.
Yep. I told you. It's subtly introduced.
Yeah.
Like, dash.
There's Jack.
Gotta do it.
I remember reading this book, like, in elementary school. I've never watched... Yeah, like I said, I've never watched the movie.
I'm pretty sure it's written by Ronald.
Roald Dahl, yeah, who will maybe definitely show up on this list later.
Yep.
Yeah, again, I brought up Willy Wonka earlier. Horrific scenes in that Roald Dahl book. Matilda has some scary scenes.
Yeah,
Look,
Matilda.
we could just do a whole episode on Roald Dahl movies, and those are scary.
His books.
Yeah, I do
Well,
too.
he also wrote Fantastic Mr. Fox, which is, if you look up like the spooky movies for kids, Fantastic Mr. Fox comes up on the list a lot. And it's literally because the fox tries to eat, the characters he comes in contact with. But, yeah.
All right. We're gonna run out of room on this list very fast with our next couple here. I'm gonna leave
backups.
I like it. I know, but we only get 8.
I know.
And you brought up 2 I was not expecting. Okay, so I know.
But you approve.
I will approve those. I have 2 of them that I know are in your list somewhere.
They better be.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to play this one to make sure we get these on the list. So I have the number 5. And I will play one you are probably expecting because you know how much I love this one. This
yep.
This
Sorry,
is
that was really loud.
Yeah. This one was this is an animated film from a series that we both do love. And this is my favorite iteration of any version of these characters.
Our dog happens to love it as well.
Our dog Charlie, like, this is the only thing he watches on TV.
Literally.
Is ScoobyDoo, and this is ScoobyDoo on Zombie Island. It's a ScoobyDoo on Zombie Island. You might be asking, is ScoobyDoo horror? Yes, it is. Don't tell me Scooby-Doo is not horror.
I feel like this movie specifically is classified. It's not a mask one.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. So the basic setup of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is that it's very similar to the 2002 movie, actually, where the gang is split up. Velma's working in a bookstore of like creepy books and mystery books. Fred and Daphne are Daphne is a host of a TV show about paranormal investigations. Fred is her cameraman, and then Scooby and Shaggy, I believe, are working like, I think, at a restaurant or something like that, and they eat all the food and get fired, obviously, because Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, duh. But for Daphne's birthday, and she's kind of the main character of this movie, I think is really cool. Fred gets Velma and Shaggy and Scooby all back together, and they team up once again, and Daphne explains to them that she wants to find real ghosts this time, real monsters, because they've never found one. It's always a guy in a mask, and she's sick of it, and she wants to prove she's a real ghost hunter journalist person. And so what they do, they eventually end up in New Orleans, which is always a perfect setting for horror movies because scary stuff really happens there all the time. And then they get invited to go to Zombie Island. And there they realize that it was once inhabited by pirates, and that there's this pirate treasure, and they think, this is the usual setup that we always have, except not. It's cat women and real zombies, and this movie's crazy and bonkers for a Scooby-Doo movie because it's real monsters. There's a great scene where Fred is trying to unmask one of the zombies and just rips the head off. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. Like, I love Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. It keeps all the great character traits that you love with Scooby and Shaggy. It also introduces the cat women. I can't remember what they're called. I'll have to look them up. But the cat women, like, what they're called.
I definitely do not remember.
What do you think of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island?
What do I think of it? I absolutely love that movie. It's amusing too to watch it with Charlie, because Charlie does like that movie as well. Our dog, I think, aspires to be Scooby-Doo.
Probably.
Yep. We're debating about getting him some stuff to make him look like Scooby-Doo. But, yeah, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, I think it's probably one of my favorites as well, just because it's literally, they are real zombies. And the whole movie is kind of creepy in general, just because the way they lead up to finding the zombies, I guess, because it's not like one of those where they come in and, I know that was really loud, they it's not one where they're like, oh, there's rumors of like this. They really don't understand what the rumors are. Besides that, like, creepy stuff happens on this island.
Yeah, there's like the setup and even the characters in the movies think, oh, it's just gonna end up being a guy in a mask pretending to be a pirate or whatever, and then you're like, no, I looked it up. There's just werecats, not werewolves. They're werecats. And there's real zombies. I remember this scene vividly where the zombie like spins his head like all the way around. Like, yeah, there's some scary stuff in here, especially if you're a kid and you like grew up watching ScoobyDoo, and you're like, it's always a guy in a mask, like, and I'll get you meddling kids and like type of thing. And it's like, no, these are real monsters on this island, and we need to stop them.
And do you remember when they were digging? The gardener had like this huge grave, and like Scooby and Shaggy like fall into it, and they uncover the remains of a bunch of was it pirates?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which starts the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure it's a curse, isn't it?
Yeah.
The werecats is a curse.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's like, I believe there's voodoo dolls that they have, the werecats do.
Yeah. Yep, they do.
There's some weird stuff in this movie.
Well,
they go there.
It's specifically because it's
They have voodoo dolls for the main character, the Mystery Inc. crew.
Yeah, and it's in New Orleans. It's supposed to be like black magic and
voodoo and
like the dark magic stuff.
So if like that, the way I look at some of these movies, it's like where kids can start watching these movies. They can get a little scared, but they're not going to be so scared that you have to shut it off or they don't want to ever watch it again. It's more of, ooh, like what's a werecat? What's a zombie? What's voodoo? What's all this? What's ghosts? Like,
it's not petrifying.
Yeah, it's gonna spark an interest into them wanting to see more stuff like that, and you can help ease them into larger scale stuff going down the road. So that's Scooby-Doo Zombie Island.
No nightmares.
No nightmares. Yeah, that's my favorite Scooby-Doo movie of all time. Period. They made a sequel to it. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
It just came out last year. Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. I read and watched a review on it. I am not ever going to watch it probably because the entire thing of what's the one thing we love the most about Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island? They're real monsters.
Yes.
They're not real monsters in the Return.
Of course.
And they don't have the werecats and yeah.
That's lame.
I'm like, you took the entire premise of what made the first one so great and memorable, and now it's back to the Scooby-Doo formula. All right, so we are picking out the numbers 4, 3, 2, and 1, and we ended up with a very similar setup as we had last time. Oh, you didn't even look at your cards, did you?
Nope.
All right, so I have the number 4 then.
Me too.
All right, there's some that I know you're going to play in here, hopefully. Okay, so I will play one because I don't think you would play it otherwise. Ready for this?
You testing me?
I am testing you.
You were testing me.
This is one because, like I said, I don't know if you will play it because I don't know if you like it as much as I do. But, do you think, can you guess what it is?
I don't know.
There's one of my favorite lines ever in this movie. And it's that Wolfman's got nards.
Oh, yeah.
Monster Squad is my pick for number 4. See, I love this movie. So the basic setup for Monster Squad is these group of kids who are the kids that watch these monster movies. And they have their own group of friends that all love watching monster movies and everything. And they obsess about it. And they have this awesome clubhouse. And then one day, Dracula awakens from his tomb and tries to recruit all the rest of the classic Universal monsters. It's not a Universal Monsters movie, though. And he recruits them all to join up, and he's going to take over the world now, finally, as Dracula. And then they all show up. The Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein's monster, Dracula. Am I missing anyone else? The Wolfman. Oh, the Wolfman.
But is it spooky?
Yes, I would say it's spooky.
Just because it has monsters does not mean it's spooky.
I will argue the same thing about the original Universal monster movies then. Those are horror movies, right? Is Dracula a horror movie? Is Frankenstein a horror? Is Wolfman?
Okay, the only difference in those movies though are those monsters are trying to like physically harm and like attack people, and they get graphic with it.
This is just as graphic as those movies.
I feel like this movie's more of a comedy.
No, there's enough horror. If it sees horror in here somewhere, right there on IMDb, there's horror in it. It's after comedy, but it's definitely a horror comedy.
I just don't think it's number 4.
Monster Squad, though.
I think I might have to use my.
No. You might not. You might not like my next one, though.
This hurts.
Let me explain. Let me talk about Monster Squad for a little while longer. These are the kids that watch these movies. Come on. Dare I say this is just as good as Goonies?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Those might be some fighting words out there. I don't know. I love Monster Squad.
Okay. I do like the Goonies, and I do like Monster Squad, but I don't think it's a spooky movie.
It's a spooky movie.
I do not. There are so many other spooky movies.
It is just as spooky as Lemony Snicket's and James and the Giant Peach.
No.
Okay, what will prove it to you if one of the kids is in harm?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, at the end, he is with the little girl. Dracula's holding the little girl, and he's like, "Give me the amulet, you bitch."
But he's not trying.
He's trying to kill her because he knows she's the virgin that's trying to say the spell to get rid of him.
You caused me physical pain.
Why?
I am not going to use my stab on it. I am going to save it for your number 1 because I have a very specific movie that needs to be number 1.
Okay.
And I will make you go through all the cards.
As long as Monster Squad can stay on the list, then.
Fine. And Monster Squad can stay.
But I also do. You need to back up from the microphone. You're popping too hard on Monster Squad. I have someone in my corner though, because I sent this question out to everyone. And I said, "What is your favorite kids horror movie?" And one of the responses from Corey Jacobson, a buddy from Somewhat Random Movie Collection on Instagram, go check him out. He also said his favorite is Monster Squad. He also said Lady in the Water. So I don't know if I trust Corey. No, I'm kidding, Corey.
He said, "Corey, it can't be number 4 though."
It can't. He said number 1. So
what?
Yeah. Monster Squad. Are you staying?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay.
It's just fine.
After we're done through all these, I will say what I would have played instead. Fair enough.
No, because I know it's gonna be better.
Yeah, you don't know that. All right, it's number 3. You have the number 3.
Yeah, I do have number 3, and I have to put this movie in here because I don't want it to go away.
I have 2 that I know are in your hand, so.
Yeah, and I know you don't have this one in your hand.
Okay, we'll see. All right, number 3 then. What are you playing?
You know what I'm playing? Good old classic.
E.T. I will, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Did you expect that, though?
No, because it's not a horror movie.
It is absolutely...
It has a scary scene in it.
There are several scary scenes. I will tell you something. I'm going to be very personal right now. That movie scared the crap out of me. I
watched this the first time when I was in high school, and it scared me when E.T. died.
Yeah, E.T. dying is very creepy, but the whole thing with E.T. hiding in the forest is definitely creepy.
Yeah.
And you can argue he might be an alien, but to me, he was a monster because I literally had nightmares. As a kid, I had night terrors, and E.T. would always be the premise of my nightmares. So I think it counts.
Yeah, I'm going to ask it to the rest of the... We'll get some second opinions.
Because it's spooky. It is totally spooky.
It has spooky scenes, but
No, it doesn't have... It is spooky.
It's just like saying Pee-wee's Big Adventure is spooky.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure is not spooky.
Large Marge is scarier than anything in E.T.
No, E.T. himself is pretty freaking creepy, especially when his neck is... And then he runs at you.
But he's also a lovable... alien,
I never once thought he was lovable.
I think you just hate E.T.
Go home.
E.T. get the F out of here.
He was terrifying. Still to this day, I watch this movie and I still get nightmares about it.
I have one no so far. We'll let it.
Frickin'
We'll let it.
Blake.
No, it's not Blake.
It's Brian.
Derek.
Derek?
We'll see what everybody else says.
I will fight.
Yeah, E.T. So the first time I watched E.T., like I said, was in high school. I never watched this as a kid. Luckily for me, and my brother is very lucky because I showed him all these awesome movies when he was a kid, so he'll grow up watching them.
My sister's scared of this movie still.
I would say, yeah, it has scary moments in it.
Yeah, it's a spooky movie.
It's less of a spooky movie than Monster Squad.
No, because I don't think Monster Squad's spooky at all.
He also said Spielberg made a kids horror movie in the summer of 1982. It's called Poltergeist. Poltergeist is not a kids movie.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry. That's
sorry.
We've discussed that too. We both love Poltergeist. It's not a kids. It's not a kids movie.
I get to boast about that because I showed you
Poltergeist
that
is
movie.
terrifying.
I showed you that movie. You had never seen it until you.
A guy peels his face off in Poltergeist. That is not for kids.
Okay, or how about in like Poltergeist 2 where he's drinking the.
I've never seen the sequels. I've seen the remake. I watched that one in the theater. Woof.
Poltergeist 2, he is drinking like a tequila with a worm in it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, the freaking worm comes to life.
Okay, so here's what I'm running into. We're 3 spots left. I have 3 movies in my hand. I know 2 of them you also have. One, I am okay not making the list. This is another one I would have possibly played at 8. Okay? And we only have 2 spots left. Do I know you're going to play the other one at number 2? And then I would add the number 1, because you also said you have a very specific number 1.
I do, and I really
think we have the same one.
Okay, because it's probably by far the creepiest one, I think.
Okay. Then it might be one of my 2.
Stab 3, I know what should be in number 3. You can stab my E.T. It's fine.
Okay. I am going to, because I do not think E.T. is a horror movie.
Okay.
E.T. has been stabbed. That is my stab for the game then. We could have used an override, I guess, by everybody else, but I'll use my stab. So, E.T. is out of the game.
It's definitely a spooky movie, though.
It has spooky moments.
I think it is. Okay.
All right, so what do we got then? Number 3. You know 2 of them I have, and we've watched them both together. And
yeah, but you have the number 1.
I do have the number 1. I mean, it's going to be one of those 2.
Which one? Ooh, but I have number 2.
You have number 2, so it'll still get... We're in the top 3 here. You have some big spots here.
I do. Okay. You will approve.
Okay.
100%.
All right, number 3 then. Monster House.
Yep, it'll go on the list.
All right.
I love this movie. Absolutely freaking love this movie.
So what is the premise of Monster House?
Okay, literally what the title says. Well, it starts with 2 kids that are definitely best friends, and they encounter a Girl Scout or candy bar seller, whatever that starts out. And she comes to their house and whatever, and well, these boys have this theory of this house. Their neighbor across the street is crazy, so they don't like kids going over there, so they're watching this girl with the candy bars going over that house to go bring it, and they freak out and like run after the girl to make sure she doesn't step on his lawn.
Blake's already calling you out on the ET. He just texted me. He's like, Kayla destroyed Killer Countdown, didn't she? Wait till you listen to this episode, Blake. Anyway, Monster House.
Oh, God. I'm wounded.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
But yeah, anyways, the kids stop the girl from going on the yard, and, then they start this whole investigation about this house being, like, bad, because there's stories of kids' toys going missing, and
kids themselves, like, never wanting to... It's the age-old tale of, don't go in that spooky house.
Yeah.
Or ring the doorbell, and, yeah.
Pretty much. But then you find out that this house is alive. Mm-hmm. The house is literally alive.
So much so it has a beating heart.
Well, it has a beating heart. It has a uvula.
It's literally a monster. Yeah, it's
the house,
a living, breathing house. Yes.
Yeah, it literally is a living, breathing house. But then you come to find out why this house is alive and the story behind it, which is, honestly, it was so sad. Mm-hmm. It was sad, but then it was also creepy.
Mm-hmm. So what I love about, so I also love Monster House.
Yeah.
And so Steve Buscemi voices the old man that lives in the house, and basically the legend and how the house became a beating heart, a living, breathing house, is that he married this woman. She was in a carnival or circus, one or the other.
Circus.
She was like the big lady in the circus. He married her no matter what, out of love, and everybody always made fun of her because of her weight. And eventually it came to a point where these kids were making fun of her and
terrorizing her.
Yeah, she fell down the steps, right? And she died.
Well,
yeah, she fell down the steps as they were building the house, right?
She's
in the she falls into the basement.
As she's falling, she tries to grab onto a cement mixer to help, and she falls down these stairs, and as she lands on the bottom, the cement pours over the top of her.
So she literally becomes part of the house at that point.
Yes, because she's literally entombed in the basement of the house, in which the basement of the house has all the toys that have ever been stolen by this house, because she hates kids because of, the way the kids always treated her.
Yeah, fair. And what I love is the way the old man in the movie, the guy that lives in the house, treats both. It's so damn heartbreaking for him, because he loves his wife and wants to get the best, be the best for her and not have her get ridiculed by kids, obviously. But when you have just these kids that just want to play and hang out outside and be normal kids out in the neighborhood, they can't, because she hates kids and will kill them or take their toy. And it's so heartbreaking to see him try to then has to realizes his wrongdoing by scaring off the kids.
Well, he's protecting the kids.
Yet he's protecting them, but yet he's also
he has to terrify them, because otherwise they're not gonna leave.
They'll die.
Yeah, he knows what's gonna happen. That's why he is so adamant. It's like a kid, literally, like a parent yelling at a kid when the stove's open, stay away. They mean what they mean. He's just he's protecting his wife, but he's protecting the kids.
Yeah, and he's kind of the guy stuck in the middle. It's really you feel bad for this guy.
Yeah, and then he ends up having a heart attack. Mm-hmm. He has a heart attack trying to protect the kids to stay away from his house, and his wife kind of just she literally just snaps and goes AWOL.
Which is the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this movie's great. It's done very much in this. It's done in the same style as the Polar Express movie was, where it's a motion capture CGI film, and it works a lot better in this movie. It's really good. Like I said, the story and the characterization is great. Mm-hmm. I love this movie.
The story is really good. It is,
and also the humor works really good
too.
And that also helps because it's written in part by Dan Harmon.
The kid's name is Chowder.
Yeah, the fat kid.
Yeah,
every fat kid has to be named Chunk or Chowder, or in the case of Monster Squad, the fat kid. That's his name. Yeah. Monster House is great. Dan Harmon, who wrote it, also is the creator of Rick and Morty.
Oh, freaking love.
So you can see some of that humor in this and character stuff too.
This movie's just amazing.
I would have played it at number 1.
Oh, see, I would not. There is a number 1 movie that absolutely...
I hope I have it then, because I had...
Frick.
Yeah, I don't know. Monster House was the one I thought we were thinking of, but we might be on different wavelengths here.
Oh, no.
All right, so here we are, number 2 then. You have the number 2.
Well, then...
What are the 2 I have in my hand? I said I have one that should make the list, and another one I could go with or without. That's how the game is played.
I know.
You do have a stab as well. So let's go to number 2 then.
But I'm do I want to play my number 1 then?
I don't know. That's part of the game.
This sucks.
It's quite the game we have developed here, isn't it?
No, I know what you're going to play number 1.
I thought we were going to be nice on this, and it's ending up being pretty crazy. Crazier than I thought. All right, want to hand me the number 2?
Yeah, I know exactly what your number 1 is.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll play my number 2 then.
Okay.
Which I want to be number 1, so.
Okay, this is number 2 in your heart, then.
Yep. Well, no, it's number 1 in my heart, but this is the top
number 2 on here. You have played Coraline.
Freaking love this movie. Absolutely love it.
So what's the setup of Coraline?
Well, Coraline starts off with a girl leaving her hometown with her family and moving into I think it's called the Pink Mansion or the Pink House. Anyways, it's a house that is shared with a bunch of different like people. It's not like an apartment complex where it's stacked on top of each other. No, it's like, okay, you get this section of this house, somebody gets this section of the house, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. The neighbors are all very kooky, crazy characters. But Coraline moves into this house, which people keep calling her Caroline, and it's Coraline. And she's just bored out of her mind and is just trying to explore the place. So she goes out and she gets, I think it's called a witching rod, and it's just trying to find a well. I don't know why. But she's like looking for this well, and she meets this guy named Wiley. And Wiley is kind of this, he's just looking for a friend. And he's like, well, maybe next time you should be careful which stick you grab, because that's poison ivy. So that's the first part of the movie, and that's how she meets Wiley. And she goes back in the house. She's got this poison ivy, and she's bored, so she asks her dad, like, what can I do? And he says to go count all the doors and all the windows. So she's going through the house doing that. But Wiley had dropped off a gift earlier. He had found a doll that looks exactly like Coraline. And so Coraline is going around with the doll, counting all of the doors and the windows and all that. And it kind of leads to nighttime, and she starts to fall asleep, and then these mice lead her to a secret door. She gets like woken up by them like squeaking, and they lead her to a secret door. She crawls through the secret door, and it's into a whole nother universe.
But in this universe, this is where the scary shit happens.
Yes. The other universe it's called, all of the people in there are defined by like other mother, other father, like other Wiley. And it's kind of like whatever Coraline wishes would happen. Like she wishes Wiley would just stop talking. Well, other mother makes it so Wiley cannot talk. He can only listen. And other mother is like the perfect mom that Coraline wants. But then Coraline becomes suspicious because in order to stay in this universe, she has to sew buttons on her eyes, which is kind of graphic. So she just goes through this.
Because everyone on this other side, the alternate universe, has buttons for eyes, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, everybody literally has buttons for eyes. And the premise of this is that other mother is just trying to get Coraline's soul. She has already taken 3 other kids' souls. Which one of them actually was Wiley's grandma's sister. So, yeah. And other mother is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, Coraline. I knew this was going to end up on the list at some point.
Yep.
We have there's a Coraline doll somewhere on that horror collectible stand over there somewhere. She's over there hiding. Yeah, this movie is very, like, I remember the first time you showed me it and you told me about the premise, like, they have buttons for eyes. I'm like, what? In a kid's movie? Like, that's, like, I think that's terrifying.
Well, just
like
the whole thing is terrifying.
The whole premise reminds me of, like, a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
Where you go into you open this door and you go through and you end up in an alternate dimension and everybody has buttons for eyes, but they're the exact opposite of what your regular Earth counterparts are. And I think, yeah, that's terrifying.
And don't forget other father. He's a squash. Other mother literally creates him out of a squash. And he, like, starts to, like, decay and rot and...
Yeah, this is one of those movies where you watch it as a... I didn't watch it as a kid. It came out in, like, 2009, so it was definitely older than that age that you were supposed to be watching this. Well, like, to be scared watching it. And, yeah, this movie, like, if you watch it as a kid, you're probably going to get creeped out a little or a little scared.
Definitely scared.
And I think it's one of those things, like, the premise itself reminds me of a Roald Dahl book because there is always a message behind all of his books, and this movie has that too. And speaking of Roald Dahl, number 1, here we go.
I knew it.
Ready?
Yep,
What
I
do you
know
think
what
it
it
is?
is. It's witches.
It's the witches.
That's why I was like, I'm okay with that being number one.
Yeah, this is the movie I was talking about for both of us, that we both love this movie, and we
I
both
absolutely love this movie.
have said this will probably end up being on the list at some point. Yeah, the premise of Witches is that this young boy, he's living with his grandmother, and he ends up at this hotel. They are on vacation, I think, at this hotel, and at the same time there is this convention going on that he stumbles upon. And it is a convention filled with all these like kind of rich elitist women, and turns out, in a great transformation scene, they are all witches, and they are on a hunt for a little boy.
Not just any little boy. They're just hungry for kids. They eat kids in general.
Yeah, so they eat kids, but while they're there, they smell him as a little boy, and they want to eat him. He gets turned into a frickin' mouse, which is terrifying to think of as a kid.
Well, he was hiding in on it because the whole thing starts with him hearing stories from his grandmother
About witches.
because she came in contact with a witch as a child. And so after hearing the story, he starts to pick up on the clues because certain, witches have very specific things they like to, hide themselves as. One is they like to wear white gloves. They always have white gloves to, cover their ugly-looking hands and claws. They always wear wigs because witches do not have hair. And you can tell they're wearing a wig because they always itch their head and they have a rash around. I'm trying to remember what the other ones are. Oh, I'm pretty sure they don't like sweets. Mm-hmm. They don't like sweets at all.
Yeah, the first time I watched this was because you showed me it, and you're like, "You've never seen Witches?"
It's amazing.
Yeah, this movie, when we were watching it, I'm like, I can't believe I've never seen this before, and I can't believe this is a kids movie. That's what I love about a lot of these movies. It comes during a time where kids movies could be scary, which we don't get a lot of anymore. The kids, we've mentioned some of them to each other that we're like, does that count? But we're like, it's not scary at all. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about them after. But yeah, The Witches is scary. Mm-hmm. The thing I really like is that this kid, he does get turned into a mouse along with another kid that is also at the hotel.
Who is not his friend.
Who is what?
Not his friend.
No, he's not his friend. He's a jerk. He's a jerk.
Yeah, he's an absolute jerk and a spoiled brat.
Yeah, comes from this very rich family, kind of a pudgy kid. Mm-hmm. He also gets turned into a mouse. And they kind of go reluctantly try to figure out how to get turned back together. But yeah, this movie, it makes you wonder, as a kid, and if you're reading the book or watching the movie, whichever one, and you picture yourself as this kid, you're like, who would like to be a mouse? Getting turned into a mouse by these witches, and then they're also hunting you still, even though you're a mouse. There's some great practical effects in this movie with the mice. Also very creepy with the mice. And
the grandma also helps them,
mm-hmm.
too.
Well, yeah, the
grandma's in on the whole thing. Yeah. She knows. She warned the kid about it.
Mm-hmm. And what is also great is that the witches look scary. Yeah,
the witches are pretty. They're creepy.
There's the iconic scene at the convention, the witch convention. That they held. They hold every year at the Ramkota Inn. Whatever. Angelica Houston plays the main witch. She looks terrifying and scary. She's so whenever you think of a witch, she's kind of seductive, but also mesmerizing type of.
That is not what comes to my mind.
What, with a witch?
Yeah, no.
Even if they're creepy, they're seductive. Even look at the Wicked Witch. She's a little seductive.
Well,
come here, my pretty. They're always using those type of verbiage and the way they move and talk and.
Yeah, but their faces are not.
Oh, they're terrifying.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Yeah. That's what I thought you were talking about. I'm like,
no, not well, I mean, when she's in her human form, she is.
Yeah, when they're in human form,
even
they're
in her creepy form, she's seductive, and even though she's creepy. I mean, even look at Dracula. People think, I don't know what it is, but some people think Dracula's hot, and I'm like, Dracula's a pale, gross man, but he's also very seductive.
Well, because he's secret and he's
smooth. Suave.
He's sensual.
The Witches, based off the Roald Dahl book. We both love this movie. I think we both think it should be on this list towards the top, definitely.
Yeah, definitely towards the top. Because I definitely think this movie is definitely creepy.
Mm-hmm. And then a remake is in the works. It is coming out, I believe, later this year as well.
It's going to be probably rated PG-13.
I hope not. I'm hoping that Robert Zemeckis is behind it, and Hathaway will play the Angelica Houston role as the main Grand Witch.
Well, then it's probably not going to be very creepy.
I don't know.
Because everything is filtered nowadays.
But Zemeckis can make... I don't know. He does kind of creepy.
I pray they make it creepy. Because it needs to be creepy.
I'm looking it up. It's expected for this October, which is a great place to put it at. One thing we should touch on, the ending of this, because it's different than the book. The ending of this movie is a happy ending, where he gets turned back into a boy, and it's a fun, happy ending and heartwarming. In the book, no, you just stay as a mouse, kid. Like, that sucks. That sucks for you.
Well, I mean, in this
it's a morality lesson that way, too, but
in the movie, though,
way.
he goes home as a mouse, too. He doesn't get turned back into a kid
away.
Until, like, the good witch shows herself.
But in the book, you're stuck as a mouse, kid. Sorry. So I hope
like
that's one thing I do think they change. I hope they change for the new one.
Is to keep him as a mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is number one then, The Witches. So I'll quickly run through the list and we'll go through our honorable mentions here. Number 8, Hocus Pocus. Number 7, Lemony Snicket's in a Series of Unfortunate Events. Number 6, James and the Giant Peach. Number 5, ScoobyDoo on Zombie Island. Number 4, Monster Squad. Number 3, Monster House. Number 2, Coraline. And number 1, kids horror movie of all time, The Witches.
Yay.
All right, so let's go through our discards very quickly. I also had Halloween Town.
No, absolutely not.
If Hocus Pocus counts, Halloween Town counts.
And I don't think Hocus Pocus counts.
It's on the list now. Too late.
Well, I was fine with it. I'm like, okay, because
it's set on Halloween. There's monsters and witches.
There's zombies and stuff like that
zombies.
in that one.
Halloween Town has literally every monster in the book. And
every monster, but
they're all witches.
No.
The main characters are witches.
Here's the difference. They're friendly monsters.
So?
That's not spooky.
It's
not terrifying.
Not all of them are friendly monsters. There's bad ones in there too.
Yeah, but the main villain is like a knight.
Huh?
Or maybe
no, he's a witch too.
Oh, whatever. But
I love my Halloween Town. Don't diss my Halloween Town. I love it.
It's not spooky.
I was terrified. There was a Halloween watch for me every year. It was along with Hocus Pocus.
I just don't think that's a spooky.
Anyway, what do you got?
Well, I definitely thought this should have ended up on the list.
Okay.
Corpse Bride. It's definitely a spooky movie. I mean, she's literally a zombie that comes up from the ground because a guy proposes to her. And
I was expecting that, not James and the Giant Peach.
Well, I love James and the Giant Peach.
I know.
And I want a Corpse Bride to be a little higher.
I didn't want a whole lot of Tim Burton production on this list either, which is okay.
And that's why I'm like, Corpse Bride, it is creepy.
We got 2 on here.
And
I think that's
it's, it's creepy, but it's not scary. It's a love story, pretty much.
None of these are scare us anymore.
Well,
I always think the macabre stuff like that can fall in this category of kids stuff.
Well, I also had witches, too.
Yep.
That's one of them. I did have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but not the original, the frickin' Johnny Depp one.
Ugh.
That one's creepy.
I would have stabbed it because it's just a terrible movie.
It's creepy.
It's creepy.
The kids, like what happened to the kids, like that was freaking creepy, especially when they're exiting the factory.
I think it's creepier in the original version because you don't show what happens and you're like, yeah, they probably just died.
No, I left this one just because the kids afterwards were freaking creepy.
It was terrible. Anyway.
And then I also had Paranorman, but I didn't feel like Paranorman because I know you haven't seen it, and I've only seen it like once. But the premise is he brings zombies up.
Yes, so that is our list. Kids horror movies. Let us know some of your picks. I briefly mentioned that there is some newer ones, and we talked about how we want kids movies kind of to go back to the scary stuff. But we've had the Goosebumps has had 2 movies, not scary.
No, not scary.
They're a ton of fun. I like the Goosebumps movies. They're fun.
Like them
They're
too.
not scary at all. Hotel Transylvania. I like those too.
That's
not scary at all.
Just
So yeah, I think we're running into a point where they're like, it's either has monsters in it and it's just not scary and they're all kind of goofy and fun, or it's like, boom, you're already into PG-13 territory.
And then I also saw that on several people's lists, they put box trolls, which I don't understand why that was on the list, because I don't think box trolls was scary at all. And then,
yeah, from what I understand, it's not a horror movie.
no, that's why I was
Yeah,
like, why is
I
this
don't know.
on people's list?
Because
Like,
it's a stop motion movie that came out right around Paranormal. Like, it's from the same group that did Paranorman.
it's
and,
not
yeah.
scary.
Anyway, bring back scary kids movies.
Oh,
That's what
also,
we're saying. That's why I'm hoping
I
the
kept
witches.
this-
The witches helps with that.
this one too.
Spirited Away.
Spirited Away.
I would count that.
That one, but it's made so friendly. Like, no
Except-
face is the only thing that's kind of creepy about it.
There's some creepy stuff in it.
I love this movie though.
Yeah. I would have left it on here. I think that would.
Yeah, but
Again, that's I think what we find with kids horror movies is that they can fall under. Yeah, it's kind of spooky, kind of creepy, but it's not really scary. But yet
Yeah.
it's spooky and creepy. Kind of like that's what I felt about like pretty much all these movies. I'm not
And, like,
scared. I was never scared by any of these.
if you watch, like, if kids watch this movie, they're not gonna get scared by it.
No.
Everything's really bubbly, friendly looking.
But it might interest them into wanting to look into other scary movies, which I think all of these do in a way. So yeah, I think we have a good list. So we're going to wrap this thing up then. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube. You can find the Killer Countdown on all those sites. Just look it up under Backlot 605. That is our homepage, our homegrown area. That is the umbrella in which all Killer Countdown falls under. You can find us. You can find us all on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under those as well. And you can check us out on backlot605.com for the latest movie news, reviews, discussion, articles, and anything else Backlot 605 related. You can find also Kayla on Instagram under the anime
Underscore.
the anime anatomy page, which is at anime_anatomy_ backlot605.
Yes.
Made it very hard, but they can find. Just type in anime anatomy, and you'll be like the
Or
first thing
look on
that
the
pops up.
backlot page too.
You'll find it. It's
I'm
pretty easy.
tagged
It's
there
pretty
a
easy to
lot.
find. You and your co-host Logan
Schwanky.
are doing some reviews on there, some questionnaires type of thing, and you're also rebooting. This is the reboot of the
Yes.
Anime and Anime podcast.
We drifted.
So
We
by
came
the time
back.
this podcast comes out that you're listening to right now, the next or this coming weekend, the first episode of the reboot will be out. So that will be out. Be on the lookout for that. Just also just under Anime Anatomy on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. All the same thing. All the same places you can find Backlot. But Anime Anatomy is on its own feed because it is.
We're baller.
Killer Countdown, like I said, will be on its own feed at some point, sometime. We're working on it, people. Anyway, you can check out anything else Backlot 605 related on our website, like I said. And do you have anything else we should talk about? Follow me on Instagram, Casey_the horror guy. I review every single horror movie that I watch. Every one of them. I'm working my way through the Universal Monster movies, so
And
working
let me
on
say,
that.
we have one TV in the living room, so I have to suffer through this.
Through the what?
Your B movies.
They're not all B movies. I watched
Most
the.
of them are B movies.
I watched The Mummy. It was pretty good today.
The Mummy?
Yeah, The Mummy.
like The
No,
Mummy.
not the Brendan Fraser one.
Oh,
Which the Brendan Fraser one is awesome too.
I like the Beatles.
It's awesome.
Beatles
Anyway,
freak me out.
the Beatles are scary. Those guys from Britain. They're scary guys. So
With their yellow submarine.
that yellow submarine is terrifying. I would not go down in that yellow submarine with those guys. So anyway, let's get back on topic and wrap this thing up. Anyway, thank you all once again for watching. For the Killer Countdown, this is Casey Kelderman, Kayla Christensen, and let's get spooky.